Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor.
Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter. This is the Breeders' Cup Preview edition on HorseCenter. As always, I'm joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
Ryan, I am very excited, but I'm having trouble deciding which plaid shirts I should pack for the trip to California.
The man in plaid, they call him. People stop me at the racetrack and ask about the man in plaid. I know exactly who they're talking about. Matt, we have 13 races, Breeders' Cup, 4 on Friday, 9 on Saturday. And frankly, when entries were drawn yesterday, Monday, I thought these races came out pretty darn good.
They sure did, and some of the surprise decisions made some of these races turn out as strong as they possibly could.
All right, I like it, Matt. Let's jump right in. We're going to go quick with some of these races and spend a little bit more time with the races that we particularly like, or the biggest races themselves. Juvenile Turf, Matt, that's a tough race. I think you're more on the Euro side. I'm more on the American side. I'm going to stick with my top 2 picks. Oscar Performance probably got a bad post at the 13. I like Big Score a lot, who's drawing nicely in the middle of the field. You're going to stick with your Euros? I'm
going to stick with my Euros, even though it's Santa Anita and the hard turf, and the Euros have just done so well in both of these juvenile turf races.
Well, I think if you have the winner in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, you should get a nice payoff because this race is wide open. Okay, Matt, the next race on the card is the Las Vegas Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, an interesting race, and I think it might provide one of your surefire singles of the 2-day extravaganza, and I'm talking about, of course, Dortmund.
And I think a lot of people feel the same way, Brian, that if they have to pick one horse out that may be the strongest, most likely winner, it's Dortmund. He looks tough to beat in that race, Brian. And those kind of situations, especially at the Breeders' Cup, where it's so hard to cash winning tickets, I like to look for a way to get some value with a horse that I love like Dortmund that's going to be a short price. We saw it last year, Brian, at Keeneland with American Pharaoh, who we thought was probably the most likely winner. But we found a daily double going to the race before when Found won the turf that paid almost $50. I'm going to be looking for the same thing here, Brian, with Dortmund. I'm going to be looking for horses in the race afterwards, which is the Juvenile Fillies turf, that maybe I can hook up in the daily double with Dortmund to get some value. That's going to require looking at the prices and seeing possible payoffs. But even though it seems unlikely, there's a good chance that we could find some value there with Dortmund. I'm also going to look in the Dirt Mile to make one exacta bet, Brian, which is Dortmund on top and Tom's Ready in second place. I think we might get a little value there, and I'll do one cold exacta.
Nice, Matt. I've been a fan of Tom's Ready since we saw him in the Woody Stevens at Belmont Park, where he rallied nicely to win at 7 furlongs. I'm a little worried about Santa Anita for him, and I'm a little worried about first time against older horses for him. I do think certainly he could rally up into the picture, so maybe that exacta will come through. Good point with Dortmund. If you are like Matt, and for the most part me, where you think Dortmund is a pretty likely winner of the Dirt Mile, you do have races beforehand and afterhand, daily doubles, that should pay decently just because of the contentious nature of both the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf beforehand and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf after. Matt, I'm still warning people that Run Happy is a dangerous commodity in here, and people are no longer listening to me. I was a little surprised he was the second choice on the morning line. One race where he faded a little bit at Churchill Downs. I think it's a different kind of track. At Santa Anita, he does have Dortmund, good horses who like to stalk like Dortmund, especially Gun Runner a little bit too. that could make life a little tough for him. But he is going to go as fast as he can out of the gate under Gary Stevens. He got a good outside post, and I'm wondering how far run happy can go. I could see him fading to fifth, but I could also see him being very tough to catch. Gunrunner should be the third choice, maybe even the second choice. He deserves it. He's a very good horse, but I kind of think he's Dortmund, just not quite as good as Dortmund, and maybe he'll be a little farther off the pace, and that'll help him. But I like Dortmund too. Of the rest, wide open. If you like the ralliers, Tom's Ready makes sense. Vijack makes sense. Maybe even Point Piper I can't completely throw out. Tamaraku's last couple of races, though, kind of point him out. He might be the fourth choice. But I guess of the rest, I would have to say Tamaraku's might be the most logical. I hope you get your exacta, though. That sounds like a good exacta with Tom's Ready rallying for second. You'd like to see them kind of press run happy early. Juvenile Fillies Turf, Matt, like we said, contentious. I'm sticking with the best 2-year-old turf filly I've seen without a doubt in America this year is La Coronel from the Marcassi barn. Unfortunately, she got the 14 hole, Matt, and that scares me a little bit.
Yeah, Brian, it sure does. That was a tough break, and you're going only a mile, and on the tight inside turf course, horse is awfully good. Still can't be ignored, and I'm going to look at that horse in the daily doubles with Dortmund, but I like those Euros in there also.
Yeah, there's several Euros that can run. We even talked about Spainberg a little bit, who got a lot of love in the morning line, but there's a bunch, and it's kind of hard to separate them all. Sticking with La Coronel, only 9-2 on the morning line. Hopefully, she likes to rally a little bit anyway. Hopefully, Giroux can swing into the middle of the pack from the far outside and find a good trip. Now, Matt, the biggest race of all Friday, the fourth and final Breeders' Cup race on Friday, of course, is the Distaff. We saw the draw, the 8-horse field drawn yesterday. And Songbird got the rail, Beholder got the far outside, and Stellar Wind is somewhere in between. What'd you think of the draw for the big three champions?
I thought that it was good. That was a good draw for Beholder. She's going to be in great position out there. I'm not that concerned about the one hole for Songbird. It's a long race. It's not a big field. She's not going to have any trouble sitting where she wants to sit, Brian.
Okay, I think Mike Smith will want to kind of go out to the lead. I don't think he wants to be behind horses on the rail. Beholder, Gary Stevens has been asking to be on the outside, so he got exactly what he wants. It seems to me that Beholder is the one that needs to go after Songbird early, whether they hook up head and head early or whether one of them gets a little bit ahead of the other. I think that makes for a very interesting early part of the race. And if anything, I think Stellar Wind got the advantage here. One post, outside post, makes me think that the pace could be a little faster than it might have been otherwise. We'll see. Stellar Wind, kind of in the middle of the pack, may have the best chance. I still am going with her, and with the post position draw, I'm still going with Stellar Wind as my top pick. I'm a Chatterbox, I think, is the fourth best horse in the race. But with the pace considerations, I think Forever Unbridled might have a slightly better shot to get in there as well.
Yeah, Brian, I think your analysis is right on. I'm gonna stick with Songbird. I think Songbird and Mike Smith are once again going to find a way to win the race.
By the way, folks, I think the morning line for the Distaff made a lot of sense. I think Songbird will be bet. If you think the older fillies can beat her, whether it be the next two, Stellar Wind or Beholder, or even one of the longer shots like Carolina, I'm a Chatterbox, or Forever Unbridled, you should get some decent odds. So can be a very interesting betting race if you think the 3-year-old can get beat. I like Stellar Wind. All right, Matt, we're going to start with the Juvenile Fillies on Saturday. Inscrutable. They're coming from all over the place. We got a full field. I was a little disappointed with the morning line odds on Valladorna. She was going to be my long shot, but the morning line only says 5-1 on the horse coming out of a maiden win at Keeneland. I guess the word is out on her.
Yeah, but Brian, it's like you said, the horses are coming from everywhere. It's a big field. Everybody's going to be, a reasonable price. Nobody's probably that you want to bet is going to be a big price. So I think there's going to be plenty of ways to go and plenty of betting value in there.
Who do you like best in this one, Matt?
Wow, it's a tough race. I think in this race, Brian, I got to give a little bit of advantage to the home field, to the Santa Anita horses, to Union Strike.
I'm with you, Matt. Union Strike's been number one on my list all along. Again, I was surprised with the morning line odds. A little disrespect there in Union Strike. She hasn't been racing since the Del Mar debutante, but that was a big performance. It was a nice progression from a very good maiden race. I think she's the one to beat. I'm going to throw in, I think there are several that could run here, but there's going to be a horse, I think that'll be 30 to 1 or so, and I think she might run a very improved race, and that's Champagne Room. First time around 2 turns, she was a little bit rank early, and she faded to 4th last time in the Chandelier. I think Champagne Room might run a very improved race, maybe to get into the exotics, but Union Strike's my top one. I like Valladorna. Hopefully she'll be higher than her morning line odds. All right, Matt, we're going to keep going. The next one is the Filly Mare Turf. We all want to see Lady Eli win. Will she do it?
I hope so, Brian. But again, this is another one of those fields that came up about as strong as it possibly could when the trainers made their decisions. Seventh Heaven in there, Brian. That is just an excellent, excellent horse coming from Aidan O'Brien. And some of the other Euros in there are also top quality. So it's not going to be easy for Lady Eli, but I am rooting for Lady Eli.
Okay, so we agree on the rooting interest, and I think Lady Eli could move forward. Certainly she moved forward into the flower ball off her first race, which wasn't bad either at Saratoga. She moves forward again for a third tryout. She's got a big shot to win, folks. She's already won in California. Really nice horse, and she could win. I just worry that the Europeans might be running against better horses over there. Seventh Heaven is the best of them. Don't be confused by her last race. She is really good. You can see 2 races back. She beat Found. Queen's Trust has run a lot of good races over there. She'll probably have some higher odds of the Euros. And again, I'm going to mention Nuovo Record, the Japanese horse, who is one of the best filly and mares in Japan, coming over as a long shot play. Good race. If I had to pick one, it would be Seventh Heaven.
Okay, I'm picking Lady Eli.
There we go. Head to head, Matt. Let's take it out. All right, the next one is the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And again, I think you're thinking single in here.
Well, Brian, you and I don't agree all the time, but I think we've agreed on Lord Nelson pretty much most of the year. And I'm going to stick with Lord Nelson here. And the race is extremely contentious. So in this case, I don't think it's going to be Lord Nelson at 6-5 or even money like is going to happen with Dortmund and California Chrome later on. But again, this is a race where I'm going to be looking to hook Lord Nelson up in daily doubles. From the Filly and Mare Turf beforehand, I'm probably going to use Lady Eli and Seventh Heaven and maybe a couple others in the daily doubles with Lord Nelson.
Lord Nelson has been my top sprinter for months now. I think he's the horse to beat. I was surprised with the morning line. They had Masochistic as the favorite. I think Masochistic is slightly unproven against the very best sprinters in the country. It's got the talent maybe to win this, but with the speed set up, I think it goes against Masochistic a little bit, maybe against the 3-year-old Drefong. If either one of those gets free, look out. They're extremely dangerous, but I think both of them were a little bit too low in the morning line, whereas I think AP Indian as the 4th choice, I guess he's only about 4-1 on the morning line, Matt, but I thought AP Indian is being shown a little West Coast bias there as the 4th choice in there. Certainly he's done enough to be considered high. I also think that he might sit a good trip in here where he could sit 4th or 5th early and make his move on the turn. The one thing I worried about Lord Nelson, if this was 6.5 or 7, I would like Lord Nelson even more. Sometimes Lord Nelson takes a while to get going. With all the speed, that might be a good thing. But on the other hand, maybe he can't run down a horse like AP Indian, who surges to the lead in the stretch and is still extremely strong at 6. I like Lord Nelson best, but I don't like him a lot the best.
Yeah, and I think Lord Nelson and AP Indian are going to sit similar trips, but like you said, Brian, AP Indian may get first jump on the pace setters. But again, I just still have this feeling that AP Indian has really, really had a very tough campaign, and that may be a factor in here.
It could, but 4th choice, you got to like those odds if that happens. Matt, the next race, I called the Juvenile Fillies, I believe, a little earlier, inscrutable. The next race is the toughest to pick a winner on the whole Breeders' Cup card, and that, of course, is the Turf Sprint. You could throw up 14 names and almost have as good a shot as anyone in picking a winner doing it that way, Matt. I'm going to look for some value in here. Pure Sensation, I think, will be bet. Will be bet to a point, 5-1 favorite, maybe. Or maybe not the favorite. I think he is the most likely winner. I don't love the one post for him. I do see some more value in horses like A Lot and Undrafted. Maybe some of the Californians, if they get ignored, Holy Loot and Ambitious Brew. Just a wide open race. If you're going to play this in multi-race wagers, probably want to use a lot of them.
You're certainly going to have to use a lot of them, Brian. And again, with my daily doubles theme, I'm going to use Lord Nelson with a few horses in here, and Ambitious Brew is going to be one of them. I am putting a lot of stock into the California horses with experience on the downhill course, especially ones that come off the pace, which is often successful going down the hill with the tremendous early fractions that get put up. I like Ambitious Brew is a little bit is out to the outside, which should make it set up perfectly for the run.
Okay, I'll throw this out, Matt. I wonder if the turf sprints in California are as classy as some of the horses coming from either Europe or the East Coast have been. That's why I'm giving a slightest of edge to A Lot as my top long shot. I think A Lot should love a fast pace in 6.5 furlongs, so I like him a little bit. All right, Matt, so we move from the turf sprint to a race that's a little bit easier for us to figure out, and that's the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. We've been on the Kentucky horses of late, and that is, of course, Classic Empire and Not This Time.
Yep, it's time for the tables to get turned on the West Coast this year, Brian. The West Coast horses have been dominating the 2-year-old scene and dominating the Juvenile in California and at Keenan last year, but it's time for the horses from the east of the Mississippi to get on top of the 2-year-olds.
Okay, we like Classic Empire. We like Not This Time in reverse order as our top two. I'm on Not This Time most. You like Classic Empire most, but we both have the other second. There should be a lot of speed in here. I think the speed of the speed and the best speed, and he's drawing inside, is Syndergaard. If he's drifting up towards 10-1, I think Syndergaard is very dangerous in here. I think he's a better horse than 3 Rules, but of course we won't know until we see it because 3 Rules is just dominating down in Florida. Gormley's only run 2 races, but they've been impressive in California. You have to fear him a little bit, but it might set up for our top 2, the Kentucky horses, and we should get decent odds at least on them because they can sit the pace, wait off that fast pace a little bit, come from 5th, 6th, 7th, something like that, and pick them up. But if anybody does go wire to wire, Matt, I think the New York bred has a shot, Syndergaard.
Yep, I mean, there is nothing about Santa Anita that horse should not like.
There you go. All right, Matt, we're going to jump from the Juvenile over to the Breeders' Cup Turf. And as you alluded to earlier in the show, I think that the Turf became a little bit better when Aidan O'Brien, I don't want to say came to his senses or the team came to their senses and decided to put both Found and Highland Reel in the Turf rather than the Classic, which they were pre-entered for. These are the top 2 horses from the ARC, which is arguably the best turf race in all the world. Are these 2 now the ones to beat in here, Matt?
Well, it sure made the race a little bit more contentious. It sure made Flintshire less of a lock, probably in a lot of people's minds. I mean, it was all Flintshire a few weeks ago, but you know, when we're talking about Found has had a pretty tough campaign, wins the ARC, 2 weeks later, runs at Ascot, and now basically 2 weeks after that coming to run against some awfully good horses at Santa Anita. The ARC winner has never had any luck in the turf. It's the ARC also rans like Highland Reel who have done well. So interesting race.
Interesting race, and it really looks like the top 3 are the ones to beat. I still side with Flintshire for some of the reasons Matt talked about. He does have experience at Santa Anita. We know, though, that Found and Highland Reel can both travel well. Found, I think, could be favored in here, Matt, coming off what she did last year, had her ARC win. She looked like the better horse last month when she beat Highland Reel on a 1.5-mile course over relatively firm turf, maybe not as firm as Santa Anita. Still, yeah, she's trying to do a lot, but she did a lot last year. She ran in the same 3 races last year, and we all know what she did in the Breeders' Cup Turf last year. This one might be even tougher, assuming Golden Horn didn't run his absolute best last year. Top 3 are big. There are some long shots that could run in here. The Big Hoss you've mentioned before, Money Multiplier, I think, is an interesting long shot for me. Several, but it really does boil down to the top 3. And I guess I'm sticking with Flintshire, but Aidan O'Brien's pair are scary.
Yeah, no doubt, Brian. And I think I'm probably going to stick with Flintshire also, because I just think he's going to absolutely love the hard Santa Anita course. You have to remember 2 years ago, Brian, when Flintshire finished second to main sequence, it was a very rare day. The turf course was good that day. All
right, good point, Matt. All right, we're going to jump to the Filly and Mare Sprint. Terrace Tango, the morning line in here interests me a little bit. Terrace Tango is listed at 8-1. We both think she has a big shot. Have You Gone Away, 3-1. She's never been that low in her big races in New York. Suddenly she's going to go to the West and be 3-1. I think she is a really good 7 furlong horse, but there's several really good 7 furlong horses in here. And as I'm looking at the field, there might be a little bit more speed than I thought last week.
Yeah, I think traditionally, historically, this 7 furlong Filly and Mare Sprint plays to horses coming off the pace. And Brian, like you're saying, there's going to be a lot of pace up front. I like Terrace Tango. I know I said it last week, and now 8-1 morning line, whether that actually happens or not, that would be terrific. I'd love 8-1 on that horse. Draw a line through her last race when she battled with the likes of Stellar Wind and Beholder. She's back doing what she likes on her home course. I like Terrace Tango a lot.
Yeah, Terrace Tango is very interesting to me. And if I was just looking at these odds, she would become my top pick, because I do think it's a pretty wide open race. Looking for 7 furlong horses, she makes sense. Have You Gone Away, the defending champion Wavell Avenue, although I don't know if she's as good this year. Others, Karina Mia certainly could appreciate the 7 furlong distance. By the Moon. So it is a tough race. With the morning line odds, I'm leaning towards Terrace Tango as well. Irish Jasper is another one who could be laying them down and picking them up this year. Fun race. Let's move on, Matt. Where are we going next? The Breeders' Cup Mile. This is one of the more interesting races on the card. Tepin looks to defend her championship from last year. She did lose a race finally last time. We both think she might be vulnerable in here as well.
Yeah, I mean, this race, again, came up super, super tough. Tepin got no breaks on everybody's decisions to run. Toughest field maybe that she's ever going to face. And boy, Brian, it's shaping up to have a tremendous, tremendous amount of speed in there. Tepin likes to stay close. She's not going to be able to let these speedy horses get too far away after what happened in her defeat. And maybe that makes her a little bit vulnerable. I think that the winner of this race is going to be a horse that's coming from behind. That's a closer. I like 2 of them in here, Brian. I like Alice Springs and I like Ironicus.
I have to agree with everything you just said, Matt. I think there is more pace in here, as often happens at Santa Anita, probably than last year, where Tepin was able to chase obviously around the track and then take over when she wanted to. I think this one does set up a little less favorably for Tepin. Great mare, certainly she could win. As the favorite, though, as a better, I am looking to bet against her in here, and I think it does, like you said, set up for ralliers. I think the Fillies are going to be the top 2 favorites, and the 2 fillies I'm talking about, of course, are Tepin and Alice Springs. I think Alice Springs has to get bet off her recent form. She also ran a very good race in the Breeders' Cup coming over last year, the Juvenile Fillies Turf. There are a lot of horses that could rally in here. Dutch Connection as a crazy long shot. Lamato is a super sprinter over in Europe. I don't know if I like him quite as much as a mile, so I'm looking for more ralliers. Maybe Ring Weekend, another long shot who steps up. But clearly for me, the horse that is the Most likely horse to run and to come flying at the stretch is Ironicus. I think his last 2 races, he spread them out because of some nagging issues, but obviously he's a big talent. The Fort Marcy win was impressive this year. He had a lot of trouble when second at 1.25 miles versus Flincher in the Manhattan. And last time he got 0 pace to run at in the Shadwell Mile, and he still almost won. Now with a lot of pace to run at, healthy Ironicus. Matt, if he's 8-1 like he is on the morning line, this could be my bet of the week, even though it's a very difficult race. I'm going Ironicus to pick him up down the lane and win this one in fantastic fashion with a late run of, 22 flat down the lane.
Yeah, and Brian, we didn't even mention Miss Temple City.
Well, Miss Temple City away from Keeneland, and as one of the horses on the lead, I guess it doesn't make sense for us to like her too much in here, but obviously a very classy mare. Matt, what race have we left out? Oh, yes, it's the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's California Chrome, and I want you to tell all the viewers why you think California Chrome is near unbeatable.
California Chrome is the best horse in training, and you don't really need to say anything more than that. Every other horse in this race is going to have to bring their absolute best to have a chance to beat California Chrome.
And now I'm going to tell you why he is beatable. Yes, California Chrome is the best horse in the world, the best dirt horse in the world. Yes, California Chrome fans, Chromies out there are going to be a little bit mad at me, but I'm seeing something in this setup and this post position draw that does make me worry a little bit for California Chrome's chances in here. Now, maybe he's just so good where he can sit first, third, or fifth early and it won't matter. But races that California Chrome has struggled with in the past is when he's on the rail and there's speed to his outside. He's shown a lot of speed lately, including running a 109.1 early in the Awesome Again. That was against basically just Dortmund, who could never come and get him. But at 1.25 miles with all these good horses, I worry if California Chrome is pushed too much early or if he's stuck on the inside behind some speed. Melatonin is to his outside. Arrogate is to his outside. I think those horses have to take the race to California Chrome early. I could see another very fast pace, and if it's the 3 of them pretty much going head-to-head, it does set things up very interestingly. California Chrome would have to be a super horse to get the job done. He may be that super horse that can get the job done, but at 4-5, and if he's pressured in fast fractions or stuck on the rail in fast fractions with horses really identifying him as the horse they have to beat, I do think it could set the race up for somebody who comes from a little bit off the pace or a little farther off the pace. Of course, I like Frosted best. I think Frosted can sit 4th or 5th and make his move. Frosted 8-1, California Chrome 4-5. There's no decision making there for me.
You make a very compelling argument, Brian, but my main issue with it is kind of what I said before. The 2 horses that you talked about, Arrogate and Melatonin, I don't think they're as good as California Chrome. If any horse on his day is as good as California Chrome is, I think it might be Frosted, because when Frosted is at his best, he is awfully good. But Arrogate's got to show me a lot more than just that Travers against 3-year-olds. Now you're going against horses like Frosted and California Chrome, and Melatonin, too much time off to contend with a horse like California Chrome.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not picking Arrogate or Melatonin to win the race, Matt, but a fresh Melatonin and an Arrogate with maybe a little chip on his shoulder. That's a strange thing to say for a horse, but I think Mike Smith and Bob Baffert know that they have to go after California Chrome. So again, I'm bringing that target on the back of California Chrome into play. I don't expect Melatonin or Arrogate to beat California Chrome, but I do expect them to kind of take the race to California Chrome early. That could possibly soften up the big favorite, the great favorite, the Hall of Famer California Chrome. That's why I think my guy Frosted has a shot.
Okay, Brian. So we're basically saying it's pretty much a lock, California Chrome and Frosted heading down to the wire.
I'd like to see that, Matt. That would be fun. And folks, I hope you enjoyed another Breeders' Cup edition. This was the preview show. Matt and I are headed out to California after we wrap this one up. Thank you as always for watching, and thank you to our sponsor, Derby Wars, the best contest site out there. Matt, closing shots?
again, Brian, we're both going to be out there. We'll be wandering around Santa Anita. If any of you HorseCenter fans see us out there, please say hello. I know we've communicated with a few of you that maybe we can get together. We'd love to talk to you at the track. And again, as always, thank you to our producer, Brett Workman.
The Hitman. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next week. We'll be talking about all these wonderful Breeders' Cup results. See you next week.